Welcome, one and all, to the Ferret Raccoon podcast, episode 176. I am your one and only host for this podcast, the Angry Raccoon, bringing you the last podcast of September 2021. And yes, I do have a bit of a sore throat. I'm sorry if this podcast does sound a bit odd, if I sound a bit breathless towards it, or my voice starts breaking halfway through it, which has happened before. But yeah, I'm kind of coming down with a bit of a cold, unfortunately, so you might hear me take breaks like that, unfortunately, just because I am straining my voice a little bit. I wasn't really able to manage my time that well over the last 2 weeks, and yeah, I'm kind of doing this podcast a little bit last minute to some extent. And also the fact that I'm recording this first thing in the morning maybe doesn't help, but hopefully I can pull through this podcast and deliver a pretty good episode, as we do have a very interesting collection of things to talk about. And yeah, it is quite interesting over the last couple of weeks. A lot has happened in terms of news and entertainment. Some of it I'm not going to be talking about, mainly because, yeah, like I said, I ran out of time, and also I don't really care too much about some of that stuff. So a quick disclaimer, I'm not talking about the trailer for the live action adaptation of The Sandman. I haven't even seen the trailer. It pretty much was released right as I did the cutoff point of the podcast. So I'm not talking about that. I'm also not going to be talking about the Stranger Things Season 4 trailer. I haven't even seen that either. Stranger Things should have ended at Season 2, in my opinion, because Season 2 was pretty much the same show. I don't know if they've done anything different. I honestly don't care for the most part. And unfortunately, I didn't really manage to do anything over the last 2 weeks. It was just a lot of heavy organizing in terms of things towards the end of the year, and just kind of getting those last few things that need to be organized and need to be in a ready state, so that if I need to go and double check something, because that's something I do. I make a lot of lists. I keep track of things, being released, things that I own, because obviously the last thing I want to do is buy something I already own. So it is interesting that I spent so much time organizing things and didn't really get to watch or play or do anything once again, which I'm sure is a bit disappointing maybe for you guys listening, and maybe a bit disappointing for me at the same time as well. But I do know that everyone has pretty much either been playing Deathloop, which released, or Deltarune Chapter 2. I'm for some reason, I'm always tempted to say Deltarune for some reason. I don't know if Deltarune is a thing, but yeah, Deltarune Chapter 2 by Toby Fox, which both kind of released roughly around the same time. And with Deathloop, I've seen some gameplay. It looks like a fun game. It looks like the kind of game I would play. By no means is it Game of the Year, because if Deathloop is Game of the Year, then it's been a pretty disappointing year for games. I'm just going to put it out there, because that game is pretty unpolished, and it's a bit clunky. It has a really bad menu system. Like, I don't know what's wrong with, like, AAA games nowadays, but ever since God of War 4 for PS4 came out, no game has ever really been able to do inventory/menu management well. The menu in God of War 4 for PS4 was awful. It's probably one of the worst things I've ever seen, next to the game itself just being piss poor and boring. But yeah, I don't know what's going on. People really need to figure out how to do menus. It's like game developers have forgotten how to do that. Excuse me, my voice just went. But yeah, it is interesting. But Deathloop. No, I'm talking about Deltarune. They're quite similar titled games now that I think about it. But with Deltarune Chapter 2, I haven't seen anything on it outside of a couple bits of fan art and, of course, the amazing trailer that we're going to talk about later on in the episode. But yeah, I'm happy that people are enjoying this game. It's good to see a indie game with such popularity, I guess, stay true and continue and still kind of have that moving force or popularity. But yeah, hopefully everyone's enjoyed those games. Moving on to news stories and topics, we've got quite a few interesting ones to discuss, because we are getting to that point where I think we do get a bit of a ricochet effect. When something big happens, you usually see a lot of other companies or the rival companies kind of release their, counterpart to it, or, they want to steal the limelight or the thunder from someone else. And we kind of do see a lot of that in this episode to some extent. And yeah, as it is coming up to the end of the year, obviously a lot of studios want to kind of get people hyped and excited for films that are actually coming out next year, because this year in terms of films has not been great. I would imagine that the film industry has struggled financially, but I haven't seen the numbers. But yeah, the first trailer we're going to talk about is for Nightmare Alley, directed by Guillermo del Toro. I believe that's how you say his name. I'm sorry if I've pronounced it incorrectly. But yeah, this trailer has already sold me. Really short, sweet, straight to the point, and I love vaguely edited trailers, unlike others that pretty much spoil the whole film. This film gives you nothing. It kind of seems to reference some kind of monster. It's taking place, obviously, I don't know the exact time period, but it kind of is following a traveling circus, and it refers to this creature, this man or beast, and we never see that beast, which is great. I'm glad that they don't show it. Then again, the only thing really listening to the narration and noticing how well the visuals match with the dialogue, which is said by Willem Dafoe, I really hope that the twist isn't that Bradley Cooper's character is the monster, because that would be a little lame, but maybe it's some kind of metaphor in terms of what's going on, because they don't really tell us anything about this film. All we seem to really know is Bradley Cooper's character kind of gets, I guess he forms a relationship with Cate Blanchett's character, who is, I think, a psychic or something like that, and I guess there's trouble afoot. And that's kind of all I know. That's kind of all I want to tell you guys, because, it looks like a pretty interesting trailer. And yeah, speaking of cast, I mean, it's a really strong cast. Obviously, Bradley Cooper, Cate Blanchett, Toni Collette, Willem Dafoe, Ron Perlman is in there, of course. So a really, really good cast. And Willem Dafoe is just delivering the performance of his life with that narration and just how moody and evil he's looking in some of those shots. And yeah, everything about this film is so interesting to me from a technical, cinematical, and I don't even know if cinematical is a real word. I don't think it is. Cinematic visual standpoint. It's really striking, as I love a lot of the visuals, such as like the room where Bradley Cooper's just sitting in that room of fire. There's that weird electric chair, and there's that thing spinning behind the woman. I don't know if they're electrocuting her. It's very odd. It's almost silly looking to some extent. Like, I do wonder if that's like part of a show or some form of actual torture to an extent. And I really love that hallway of eyes that you see Bradley Cooper down. You don't really see it in the trailer, but if you actually look up images of this film, there's a much better shot of what that hallway looks like, and it's really creepy and interesting. It has got a nice kind of classical Hollywood film noir meets supernatural element to it, which is rather interesting. I haven't really seen Guillermo del Toro do anything that's this period based, except for The Shape of Water, which is the first thing it does remind me, and I'm sure going to remind a lot of people of. But yeah, I'm really interested in this film, especially finding out what exactly is going on in this film, because it is a very, very interesting one. So yeah, really looking forward to this one. Next trailer we're going to something that I think most people probably haven't even heard of before, or at least know that there's another one coming out, and that is going to be for VHS 94 or VHS 1994. This is the fourth installment in a rather underrated and I guess pretty good horror anthology series. Now, I've watched the first two films, which I thought were really good. I haven't watched the third one, which is titled Viral, mainly because my impressions of that film is that it was more about shock value and interesting visuals as opposed to storytelling, which is fine. But, and what was I going to say as well? Oh yeah, and also I think Shudder has this series or is picking up this film, so that's the perfect place for it, because Shudder is pretty much going to be any horror fan's number one platform. But yeah, this series, the original VHS series, is responsible for some really creepy, disturbing, and honestly experimental visuals. And for those of you who have never seen a VHS film, I would highly recommend watching them. I mean, it's particularly the first one, as I would say, if you're not really into horror and I guess, yeah, like I said, disturbing scenes, that's probably the best one to watch, because the second one does take a really odd, disturbing left turn. But yeah, I would really recommend them. But the basic premise is that there is just a collection or a group of tapes that just have, I guess, found footage recordings of just the most bizarre and crazy, almost like dark web type stuff on there. And the film is essentially an anthology where someone watches all these tapes and sees all these horrific things recorded. So it's got a pretty unique premise, and it does work because it does have a overarching narrative to an extent. You know, you're not going to get one film that, you know, looks nicer than the other to some extent. They're all kind of in the same league to some extent, so they can blend together pretty well. And there is an overarching narrative. Like, for example, in the first film, not to spoil too much, it's a bunch of people who break into a house and they see all these tapes. This fourth one seems like it's something very similar in that a SWAT team is breaking into this house. I'm not sure if it's the same house from the first film. I can't remember. But yeah, it is really interesting. And it is interesting as well to see that this one is taking a slightly more gorier and campier approach to some extent. Like, there's some really silly scenes. Like, I'm guessing the one with the doctor and the woman who has the severed head, and or the guy who has like half his head on the floor. I'm guessing those might be the same ones, as well as another scene that I'm going to talk about in a second. But already, the concept of being in a narrow tunnel system and there is something hunting you is horrifying. Like, that one shot where you just see that figure kind of on all fours, yeah, that's disturbing as hell. Like, that is legitimate nightmare fuel. I also like how one of the tapes just decides that it's going to be Doom. When you see the guy pretty much just strap the gun onto his hand and starts killing people in first person. Like, the director is clearly a fan of the series, and you can kind of see a little element of Evil Dead with him, I'm imagining a severed arm with a gun and just going out there. So already it looks like it's going to be a hopefully good mixed bag. I know we've got some pretty interesting anthologies coming out this year. Obviously, we have Love, Death, Robots Season 2, Star Wars Visions. It's called Visions, right? Yeah, Star Wars Visions, which a lot of people are enjoying, which is good because, yeah, I'd imagine it's probably the best thing to happen to Star Wars since the first Star Wars film. And yeah, more accurately, Star Wars Clone Wars, directed and animated by Jodorowsky. Not Jodorowsky. Why am I forgetting his name? I forget his name for some reason. I cannot remember. He's the director of like Samurai Jack, Dexter's Lab. Tartakovsky. Yes, Tartakovsky is his name. But yeah, let's move on to games now, which is pretty much going to be end off this podcast. And I guess THQ Nordic had a bit of a 10-year celebration live stream announcement thing, and they showed off a bunch of things they have coming up. And one of the things they showed off was SpongeBob SquarePants, the Cosmic Shake. Now, I'm guessing this is going off the success of Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated, which was a remake of a very beloved and a game that has a very hardcore speedrun community. The game was originally released on PS2 and other platforms and is regarded as, I think, the best SpongeBob game, / one of the best platformers, / one of the best non-film-based licensed video games. That's quite a mouthful. So it does have quite the legacy behind him. And I think they're going to be doing an original standalone platformer. I hope. Because we don't see any gameplay in this trailer. I can only guess. I highly doubt it's a strategy RPG. But this is very exciting because THQ Nordic and Nickelodeon have been going in over the last couple of years, which is really interesting. Obviously, we had, the remake of the previous game come out, and that, did pretty well, I would imagine, for them to be able to make a sequel, or at least take a risk to make a sequel. And what was the other thing they did? One other thing I'm about to talk about, and also the fact that I don't know who it is, but someone is making that Nickelodeon All-Stars Super Smash Bros. Game, and I've been watching that game pretty intently because they're adding a lot of characters from Nickelodeon's legacy. There's like wave dashing and wave cancelling, which is a, I guess, technique or system within Smash Bros. Itself. So they're going in this year. Nickelodeon really wants you to remember its characters, which is awesome. But yeah, like I said, no gameplay, but the CGI trailer is by far fantastic. Like, lots of references to the series, as it seems like we're going to be traveling to different worlds or dimensions or throughout SpongeBob's history, hence the references. And it's honestly a really beautifully animated trailer. Like, that's the main reason I'm talking about it, is because the trailer itself is so good. I can imagine children seeing this and being like, whoa, this is amazing, or even just fans of platformers or people like the previous game just, enjoying this and looking forward to the game. They did a really good job with this, especially when Mrs. Puff is playing like the guitar solo. The animation there is top notch, and they really did nail the art style. I think the art style here looks way better than the most recent film that came out. But yeah, I really hope with this game, if anything, that you get to play as more characters and you get to play as them for longer. Because I remember you didn't really play as some of the other characters for that long in Rehydrated. But, sorry, I'm just turning my page. But I really do hope that we do get to play as more of the characters and it's not just SpongeBob. Because that would be a little bit of a step back in my opinion. Even if like Sandy gets like one whole level, that would be enough, I think. But yeah, sticking with THQ Nordic, we have Destroy All Humans 2, Reprobed. Now, this is once again another CGI trailer, although there is gameplay, which I will link in the description and the download link if you want to see what the game looks like, although it pretty much plays very, very similarly to the original game. And yeah, this is something you don't see too often in the industry. A game that was remade gets its sequel remade. Like, it is very interesting because it doesn't happen. The only examples I can think of are Resident Evil 2 and 3, which got remade. Now, I have to wonder, are they already remaking the third one? Because I would imagine both the first remake and the second remake are using the same engine. And if that's the case, does THQ Nordic already have plans to do a third one? You know, are they already like, well, it's going to sell? You know, are they like, well, it's not going to take us long to make, it's low cost to make? And at the same time, are they developing an original fourth game from the ground up that will be a little bit more appropriate for, let's say, modern day consoles, you know, better graphics? No disrespect to the remakes, I still think they look good, but they are not the most graphically powerful games, although graphics isn't everything, clearly and evidently by these games' success. But I am interested to see if that is the end goal plan. Are we going to get a Destroy All Humans 4 on PS5 that really takes advantage of, you know, having massive worlds, faster loading times, you know, destruction, and having so many NPCs and other things? Is that what they're working up to? Which would be pretty cool if that is the case. But the trailer itself was amazing. Once again, I don't know what's going on at THQ Nordic or whoever's animating these trailers, storyboarding, conceptualizing them. Top freaking marks to marketing and the animation team. You did a stellar job. The animation was smooth and on point. I like how cheeky like it was with like the lady landing on top of like the guy, you know, essentially face sitting, which is quite funny because if I remember correctly, is another fact for a lot of people who just don't know, people outside of England, the UK government essentially tried to have positions and moves like that banned. So I wonder if that is a reference to that. And also the fact that it's a very, I believe it's something that people did during that era in England. So yeah, and also I remember, also if you look closely during the news report when like the creature is rising from the sea, it does say on the screen, familiar looking monster attacks Tokushima City, which is quite funny because we all know who that's a reference to. It's obviously a reference to King Kong. I'm joking, it's Godzilla. But yeah, the whole trailer is a creative and fun showcase of like everything you can do and everything the game has to offer. And that's something you don't ever really see in trailers too much. Like some trailers, they try and go for a little bit more of a, you know, pull at your heartstrings, emotional kind of narrative. Oh, here's a scene of like what's going to happen in the game and can you feel the emotion? Whereas this trailer is just grand and epic and just fun and the most video game I have ever seen. I love video games, and it's THQ Nordic and this game that are restoring my faith in video games, because there's some pretty depressing stuff regarding video games and how generic and how service-based and money-grabbing it has kind of become over the last couple of years. But then again, there's positives. Deltarune, Psychonauts 2, you know, those are games. But yeah, I would highly recommend watching this trailer. I also love the fact that they use a Rammstein song, which is always appropriate. Everything about this trailer is awesome. Can't wait for this game. I actually own the remake. I don't own the original, but I own the remake. I still haven't played it yet. I just didn't have the time. But I'm hoping to play that and Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated over Christmas because I need a break and I need to relax. But yes, let's move on to the Nintendo Direct that happened quite recently. I can't remember the exact day it happened. I think it was on the 23rd, but I will put that information in the description and the download link just for reference sake. And yeah, I don't really have a lot to say about the Nintendo Direct because a lot of it was things I already knew about, and a lot of it was stuff that I'm just not feeling, which is fine. I wouldn't say it was a bad Nintendo Direct because people are talking about it, so I guess it can't be all that bad. But yeah, the main things I want to talk about, of course, is going to be the amazing Deltarune Chapter 2 Nintendo Switch trailer, which featured the annoying dog essentially saying that, yeah, Chapter 1 and 2 are on Nintendo Switch, and you get a free upgrade if you've already got Deltarune Chapter 1. That is awesome. More people need to do this. Props to Nintendo and Toby Fox for doing this and not trying to screw people over like so many other people try to. If it's the same game and just another part of it, just add it on. And hopefully we'll get a physical release of this game. And hopefully we'll get another physical release of Undertale, because the, I think, fan gamer release of that is really hard to find. I've heard rumors that someone's going to be re-release it on PS4 and PS5, but I don't know who or if that's true, so don't quote me on that. I just remember seeing a listing of it somewhere. But yeah, fantastic, creative, awesome little trailer just to kind of say, hey, here's Chapter 2, you know, low effort, low cost, you know, but sometimes the simplest ideas are the most effective, and Toby Fox knows that very well. Next trailer I want to talk about is Bayonetta 3. I thought this game disappeared off the face of the earth because they showed off that one teaser trailer, like, 18 years ago? No, it was probably about 4 years ago, and we've heard nothing about it, so it's really good to see them kind of just be like, yep, the game's still a thing. The game looks fantastic. It looks like it's in a very early stage, because I don't know if it was because I didn't watch the trailer in high definition, but it did look a little clunky, low performance-ish, but I'm hoping that's because it's an early build or something like that, and this is maybe the most they have, because, I mean, the game doesn't come out till next year, so I'm not really going to fuss that much about it. But I really love Bayonetta's look. I love the braided ponytail she has from her hair and around her hips. That's a really interesting look for her. I am loving the fact that they're incorporating more of the summons or bosses you fought, and they've kind of doing almost like a kaiju-esque battling system between these bigger monsters, which I think is a great concept. I don't know if that was in Bayonetta 2. I have Bayonetta 2, but I haven't played it yet because it's on Wii U, and nothing against the Wii U, but I just haven't cracked out the Wii U in a couple of years. But yeah, it also reminds me a lot of Devil May Cry 5 with the character V. If you haven't seen Devil May Cry 5, just type up gameplay of V, and you'll see what I mean, where Bayonetta's kind of like doing her summon or suggestively dancing as, I guess, this monster comes in and fights this greater monster. And I love the variety. I love the spider that's just like swinging from mid-air, just like doing attacks. Really creative stuff, and just that end scene when I can't remember the name of it, but the dragon is essentially running along the sides of the building, chasing that one thing. It's just epic. Platinum knows exactly what they're doing. They know how to make fun, epic, just over-the-top, amazing games. And we got another teaser at, like, this maybe villain character. This, I'm going to say it because obviously it's a comparison, Dante/Virgil looking character that we see at the end, kind of like slash the 2022. I wonder if this is going to be the main villain of the series, because if I remember correctly, if you go back, the original teaser trailer for Bayonetta 3 showed, I guess, a character kind of slash something, and you kind of saw, like, I think it was Bayonetta's silhouette or something to do with Bayonetta kind of just fade away, and as if she'd been killed. So I wonder what that's about. It's very intriguing. Definitely high ranking on my most anticipated for next year list. And now we come to the big one. This is the one that everyone is talking about. I think as of right now, given the fact that this podcast is going up on the 27th of September, people are still talking about this, and that is going to be for the cast reveal of the Super Mario Bros. Movie, which was essentially Miyamoto himself during the Direct kind of was the first person to break the news, which is pretty awesome. And it should be stated as well, something that I only found out and I had to go back and double check and make a correction. It's not actually called the Super Mario Bros. Movie. I'm calling it that for now in the description and the download link, only because I think more people know Mario as opposed to Super Mario. Or I should have said that the other way around. People know Super Mario Bros. as opposed to just Mario. And yeah, it is interesting that we had him break the news and reveal the casting, voice casting, not live action because it's animated, which I'm more than happy with. And it is interesting, very interesting, because I think there's a lot of upset with some of this cast. So I'm going to go through the main ones that I think people are talking about to an extent. And so first of all, we have Chris Pratt, who is going to be playing Mario, which I think this is the one that a lot of people are pretty upset about, maybe because they just can't see it. Honestly, I don't know who you would get to play Mario. I haven't seen any other suggestions or better choices. I'm not saying he's perfect for the role, but yeah, I guess it is a bit of an odd role because he does come across as a pretty American actor. But yeah, anyway, moving on, we have Princess Peach, which is going to be played by the lovely Anya Taylor-Joy, who is an actress I absolutely love. I'm going to be very interested to see how she performs because she hasn't done a lot of voice work, and I'm going to get to that whole concept later, but yeah, fine choice. Really good casting with Luigi. We have Charlie Day. This just works for me. This really just works. Yeah, I have no complaints with this. Next, another one I cannot complain about. Jack Black voicing Bowser. Yeah, I think that's spot on. Jack Black is a fantastic actor and voice performer, so it's going to be very interesting to see him play a villain, so that's good. Also, we have Keegan-Michael Key, who's going to be voicing Toad. Interesting choice. I wonder how that's going to go down. And then we have Seth Rogen, who's going to be voicing Donkey Kong, confirming that it isn't just Super Mario Brothers, it's pretty much the whole universe, so that's pretty cool. And yeah, it is interesting. The main things that kind of have me not necessarily concerned, but I guess essentially wondering, and I'm going to kind of go into, I guess, why a lot of people aren't necessarily happy about the cast to an extent. And that's essentially because it's star power over the role. But, you know, it's not exactly a new trend. Throughout pretty much all animation within films, especially around the 80s and 90s, it did become about star power. It was this famous guy's voicing this character, or, you know, this person, that person. Disney, you can blame for the ones who did this, as it's very rare that you get a animated film, a big budget animated film, who is considered, let's say, a no-name actor, or someone who is by profession just a voice actor or actress. So it makes sense why they've gone about this, but I completely understand why people would be disappointed, as it's, you know, a celebrity cast to an extent, and not every actor or actress is a great voice performer. There is a big difference. Sure, you can act and move and emote with your face, but can you perform simply with your voice is the bigger question. And some actors cannot do it. They cannot do it. I know that for a fact. And whether some of these can do it, I don't know. But out of everyone, Jack Black is the best voice actor because he has the most experience. He's done video games, he's done animations, the guy can sing. He has range, he can hold a note, he can perform a voice. You know, he's the one who's going to be the most interesting as the... How do I put it? I'm just trying to think of the best way to put it. It is interesting and is going to be seeing... It is going to be interesting to see how much range these actors do have, because, and how they're going to sound as well, which I guess is what's probably throwing people off as well, because are these actors going to sound like just themselves, or are they going to try and get them to do a voice as closely linked to the original characters in the game? Like, in Mario, as I'm sure most of you know, Bowser doesn't exactly talk, he just roars and growls, and it's like unintelligible language to an extent. Same thing with Mario and a couple of the other characters. I think, you know, Princess Peach is technically one of the only characters that does talk. So, you know, is Jack Black going to talk with an evil, gruff voice? Is he going to shout all his lines, a la Jonan from Invader Zim to an extent? You know, is he just going to growl? You know, because maybe they were looking at, you know, Guardians of the Galaxy or Suicide Squad, and they really wanted a character, or they wanted to make Bowser more like a character like King Shark or Groot, where they just say one thing and everyone just understands what they say. You know, is Anya Taylor-Joy going to have a slightly more high-pitched voice because she's not a high-pitched lady? You know, is Chris Pratt going to try and do an Italian accent? You know, is Seth Rogen going to sound like a monkey, you know. It's all interesting stuff, and I do wonder how it's going to go down. But I am interested in this film, and I'm so glad that it is an animated film, because like I said before, with animation, you can literally do anything, as opposed to live action, where you are essentially limited the moment you start writing the script. Always do animated films, and besides, it's not as if a live action Super Mario Bros. Movie has failed in the past, or any other live action film based on a video game failed in the past. But yeah, and speaking of that as well, I'm going to link an article that kind of links that and kind of gives you the information. I'm going to link the video of Miyamoto confirming the cast as well, just in case you want to see the actual moment from himself. But I was looking online as well, and it is in the Variety article I'm linking, and there's a really, really horrible list of all the film and TV adaptations based on video games coming out. And it's honestly quite depressing to read. Like, obviously, I'm sure most people know about the Sonic the Hedgehog 2 movie. Obviously, the Mario movie I've just mentioned as well. We've got Resident Evil, Welcome to Raccoon City, the Borderlands game. Well, not Borderlands game. I don't know if these are going to be TV series or films. I believe they're going to be films, but I'd imagine they're probably going to become TV series as soon as Netflix has their grubby little hands on a lot of the rights. You got Beyond Good and Evil, Carmen Sandiego, which is an odd one because there's already a TV series of Carmen Sandiego, which isn't very good. I'm going to tell you that now. The Division, there's also untitled Call of Duty film, because of course there is. Five Nights at Freddy's, which has been in development for years now. Gears of War, Ghost of Tsushima, which honestly I just see being a terrible film. Apparently there's going to be a Just Cause and Just Dance film as well. The Last Guardian, Mega Man, Metal Gear Solid, which is going to be awful. Rabbits, as in like Rayman Raving Rabbits as well. Silent Hill 3. Now, that's a confusing one because technically the second Silent Hill live action film was Silent Hill 3, so I don't know if this is just Silent Hill 3 the film or what. Sniper Elite as well, Space Invaders, Yakuza, which honestly out of all of them is the only one that makes sense as a film, and the Minecraft film, which has been in development for years, almost a decade at this point now. They've been trying to do that for ages, and it's going to suck when it comes out. But yeah, that's pretty much going to wrap up this podcast. I'm really sorry if I sounded awful. I'm really sorry for stumbling over my words. I just have a bit of a sore throat and I'm kind of just struggling with it at the moment. So I'm sorry if this podcast sounds a bit jumbled, but hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Hopefully it turned out pretty good. But before I end this podcast, we're going to talk about the video of the episode, which is going to be Radiohead with If You Say the Word. Now, this is, I believe, a unreleased song that either comes off one of their two albums, as I believe they're re-releasing Kid A and one of the other albums in a new package. And yeah, much like how they did it with what was it, Kid A? Not Kid A. OK Computer, where they re-released it and all the unreleased songs. They're doing the same thing here, and this is honestly a really chilling and quite haunting music video, even the song as well. But then again, almost everything about Radiohead is a bit like that to an extent. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoy the music video, as I think it gets us nice and ready for October, because it is going to be spooky month in a couple of days time. I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to hopefully try and play a certain spooky game and watch a certain spooky film, and maybe I'll have some people join me on the next two podcasts and we'll do some spooky discussions. The key word is spooky for next month, remember that. But yeah, before my voice completely goes, I guess I'll end this podcast like I always do by saying I was the Angry Raccoon, and I will see you on the next podcast.